This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenro radio playlist. zenroclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Portian Bakery. If you're located in the Portian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Portian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone can podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Wait, all right, it was take two. All right, so we were just doing like a podcast chat, and then we started talking about caste systems, and I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. So continue from where you're left off. You're talking about Vin.
I think it's Verna. I think Verna is the word.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like there was a thing called before in India, like is Verna system. It just means like as an individual, what was your merit kind of thing, right? And you'd go into that. So if your skills were more as an engineer, you'd go towards that. It wasn't like as if you were born a certain if you were born into a specific, like a businessman family, you're just going to be a businessman, right? You could.
Oh, it's skills based. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, because I was thinking what you meant was like, okay, so just for context, what a caste is like levels within a social hierarchy, and then theoretically you can't move up a caste within this lifetime. Within a new structure because of like reincarnation.
Right.
Yes, there's something. Because like you were like, oh, it's more of a Western viewpoint, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. Because that's when I took a world religions class and we learned about castes. That's what we learned. It's like you have to wait till the next life, and hopefully, if you're good deeds, you can move up the system.
Right, and I feel like a lot of that is comes from, I would say, colonization. Right, where it's like to control certain people and keeping them in a certain way.
This has been like really messing with me. The whole colonization thing. When you really look into history, and then you're just like hearing about it more and more, it's like
that's why it's like I grew up thinking, and I think a lot of Indians think the same way. It's like we thought caste was that was the way it was. You're stuck to your family thing, right? Lineage kind of thing, but that wasn't the case before. So when did it change? It's like if 500 years of colonization, there's got to be something changed over that time, right? And even though the religion may have survived, it's just there will be little things that have changed that we forget, right? We just connected to that's we think that the caste system was there for the whole time.
Yes.
So it's like it's hard to know what is true. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, or when did it change? Did it change during the time of colonization in order to control people and put them in certain groups so that they can fight each other versus fighting them?
Honestly, like, okay, so the most contemporary example I have for this is like jujitsu, because there's moves that we thought were in jujitsu the whole time, and then I bought this book that's like the history of jujitsu, and it turns out that one move that we thought was like, oh, this is a jujitsu move. It's like, no, that wasn't introduced till like 50 years later.
Right.
It's just like this. It's like the origin was not even
exactly.
Similar,
exactly.
You know,
exactly. It's like we thought that the caste part was part of the Hinduism thing. But it wasn't the case.
Turns out it wasn't. Yeah. Honestly, like if you manage the education of a country, you can manage like everything, right? Because right. So if you just start erasing history and like changing it, it's like you can make people believe whatever you want them to believe, and then the only people that remember it are like the olden time people. You know, imagine if you like live forever and you saw this progression over time. It can only be management of groups of people? Like you're saying, like, do we create this in order that they would fight one another, stuff like that?
Or maybe not necessarily. Maybe it wasn't like any in a bad way, right? It was just like
It was
to
unintentional.
unintentional consequence, right? So it's like maybe it was
Yeah.
just a way to easily understand. Like it's coming from an outsider, right? Outsider doesn't know what's going on internally inside of a country, so they think that okay, they think this is the way, so they're assuming okay, maybe it'll be helpful to organize people in a certain way versus like causing the
Yeah.
actual problem, right?
Yeah. One thing you mentioned, there's so much branching off of this in my mind, but like one thing you mentioned was the Brahmins,
Hmm.
who are, you said they were like beggars.
I wouldn't say no. They're like their position was meant to be like priests, right? So
Yeah.
priests are not supposed to work, right? You're doing the priestly duties, so you would be getting food or donations. Like that's how you would generally um, survive.
You're like unattached from the world.
Hmm.
So it's weird, like when you think about a Brahmin or like a priest, because is that just like, is that just a hustle? Like I mean, like were they conned into this profession?
Well, I don't know. I
So
don't know. Like again, like which part is older, which part is newer. I don't know, right? So it's like, can they branch out? Like if someone didn't want to be that and go into being like a businessman or something, right? So it's like where I don't want to be a priest. I can be something else, right?
right. But like even like the actual the like the work structure of a priest, it seems very like conned. Like we're gonna get you to live
Oh,
with
right.
like
From
no
them
attachment.
perspective. Yeah.
It's kind of weird, you know? It's like you don't want to experience these things. Like remember that story with Buddha, and then he had his kid, and then he made a school. You were telling me this before, and then his son's like, how can I learn the same things as you if I haven't gone through this,
Right.
like, you know, the
Yeah.
world?
Yeah.
And it's like it's almost like you're secluding yourself off from life in order to pursue this spiritual value. But it's like, what are you really trying to pursue? What
Hmm.
spiritual thing is it?
Right.
Like, but I actually don't know. Like, why would someone pursue this path unless they just believed in the scripture, I guess. But even at that level, it's like it's just a book.
Yeah.
Like you delete the
It's
book.
yeah. It's up to the individual. Like I don't know. Like it's not like that now, right? Um, I feel like it's very different now than it was in that
But
time.
I couldn't see them going on like a vacation, like a priest, you know, or like
Well, it's not like they're stuck to one temple in a way, right? They can go to other
go to another.
temples.
Yeah, facts. I
So
don't know,
it's
restrictions.
in a way, it's experiencing. You're able to experience the world too, but you're not. Your job is specifically that, right? Being a priest.
But it just seems so like who would want to do that? Like a, you know, it's like it's supposed to be held as like a high position.
Hmm.
And back then it would make sense because the priests rule like governed a lot of things, right? Because you would like go to them for advice and like all
Sure.
this stuff. But do we do that still? Like we have the internet, we have like therapists now, we have, you know, like yoga teachers. You have all these things that are competing with a priest. Whereas before is like they were the arbiter of spirituality, like they were the gatekeeper to God,
Hmm.
let's say.
Hmm.
But now you have all these different people that are, you know, you read like an Eckhart Tolle book and you can get the same spiritual lesson. So it's like,
Yeah.
why would you want to go through that? I just don't know why somebody would want to do that unless they just have blind belief. But blind belief's not good,
Yeah. I don't know if
you know?
it's. I wouldn't say. I mean, there could be people with blind belief, but there's like you can't have answers to everything. So sometimes these are places that you go, right,
Yeah,
to find
okay.
some spiritual meaning or something.
It just feels like a crutch to me, you know? Because you're like,
Well, that's why we're not priests,
I know, but yeah,
right?
totally. But it just, it's just the idea of it, like going to, because you've been to temple, I've been to church, and when we see the person in the front, like people look at them as like
Like
as like
the
a
spiritual leader. Yeah.
right, but it's
Yeah.
like, but what can you tell me? This is all right. This is how I see it. If I want advice, I will look to the person who has what I want, and then I'll look at their advice, right?
Hmm.
But I'm not gonna go to a spiritual leader on like relationship advice. You're like celibate.
Sure.
You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
only live with God. So it's like to me that's
But that's
confusing.
not
I don't
all. That's not
understand.
all priests, though. There depends.
No, right. But like let's say I want job advice and I go to a priest, but it's like,
Hmm.
but you really only have this one job. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They have a very limited amount of experience. They have a lot of knowledge, but no experience. So they're not really wise to these truths.
Hmm.
Like it's like, yeah, that's like a philosophy that you can champion, but did you test the philosophy? To
Right.
the priest, I mean. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like love thy neighbor. Like, okay, but have you ever had something bad done to you? Like, it's like
Hmm.
it hasn't been tested through them. And I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on the individual, right?
The priest, you mean,
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
okay?
Like I
What do
just
you
can
mean?
remember wasn't there like
Like,
a
do you know
mark?
a good priest?
No, I don't know
Oh, so that's
priests.
what I mean. Yeah.
No, what I mean is like it's up to the individual, like who goes in that line, right? Like I don't know their individual stories, but like I can remember there's like a Mark Wahlberg movie, right, about a priest that he became a priest after doing all these
Oh, like being a boxer and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, going to prison, and then he ended up becoming a priest. Wasn't there like a movie?
Father Stew or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading that or hearing that like he wants to do more of that kind of stuff, like religious kind of thing, like bringing that to more
But
light. So like
why?
I
Like,
think
I'm just,
that they
I'm
find some
confused.
meaning in it. I don't like. I think if religion has survived this long, uh,
But can religion continue to survive with the internet?
yeah, I think so.
Like, really?
Yeah, I think it
Like,
does. I think it still will, because
I feel
it
like the access to information is so high now.
no the access to information is there, but there's also a lot of access to other kinds of information too, right? That could like misleading information or something like that, or confusing information. So it's like we're still back at the same thing, right? Where even though the information could be all out there, but uh, there's something that people like. We're the minority. There is something within the spiritual world, or like spiritual people, or have a connection to these things that we don't have, right?
I I really believe it is like the reason why you become so spiritual is you pass on the ownership of your problems, right? Like the mind can only handle that it's your own fault for
Sure.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
why is my life like this? It's your own fault, bro.
Hmm.
Like why this?
Hmm.
Because of this. Like or a great one. Like, God, why did you allow starving kids to be born in Africa?
Yeah.
This is actually, oh, no, but like it's a question, right? That
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of people say, like, but if you actually look at history and how things progressed and you like do a deep dive into economics, you're like, oh, I get why this happened. It's like you don't want to do the work. So you're just kind of stopping it there. Do you get what I'm saying?
No,
It's like a
I
lot of
just
these things can easily be answered.
right.
They really can
Yeah.
be,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
why did the train derail and kill all those people in
Hmm.
that town?
Hmm.
Yeah, like with the thing that just happened, something on the train. I haven't looked into it. I just saw like a train tipped.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So like,
The
God, why'd you let that
derailments. Yeah.
happen?
Hmm.
Yeah, so God, why'd you let that happen? It's
Yeah.
like,
That's a very
well,
common question. Yeah.
but it's like, but well, nobody was really upkeeping the train track, and like maybe somebody wasn't doing their job. Like, there's
Hmm. Hmm.
actually an answer for this, but we kind of like let go of wanting to find out, and we just like trust in the faith of the Lord. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you
No,
kind of
I know what you're saying. I understand what you're
it's like
saying.
I don't want to do the work,
No,
so
I
I'm just gonna
understand.
let that
I
go.
understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, but again, it's like how is their specific brain chemistry? Like, there's a reason why religion has still survived for so many years, right? Like even
Yeah.
ancient time of Hindu time, it's like there were atheists at the time too, and it's been recorded, right? So it's like they
Right.
they still existed then, and still religion exists still today. It's like
Yeah, okay, but I wonder if we are on. There's so much happening in the world that I'm like, are we on the precipice of something that's about to change? I know you were talking about this before, where during the 1970s or whatever, during the Vietnam War, people were still talking about inflation and like the end of the world, all that stuff, right? But I don't know. Like before, it's like sure, it could have happened, but there's a lot of things that are like you can't go back on. And what I mean is like AI, this UFO
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah, yeah.
like the nuclear. I just heard on a podcast that because I've been paying attention to the Russia thing, but Putin backed out of the nuclear agreement,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So it's like, it's like we're all not going to use nukes, and he's like, no, I'm backing out of this deal.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you have so many things in play. Did we have as many things back then?
Right, right, right.
You know,
I don't know. There could be
like
new.
globalization's so.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
one thing
It's not
messes up,
always.
so many things
Yeah,
mess up.
it's not always the exact same, but for instance, like let's say the UFO. UFO
Yeah.
could be a real thing, but they could be like pushing that now more so that they can increase their budget for the military. Like this use of
Could be,
that,
yeah,
right?
could be.
So it's like
Yeah.
this is a way. Like before, it would have been like the fear
War.
of something, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a fear of another country, or like at that Cold War, or whatever it was, right? So it's like that was instigating for them to put more money into military. Now they can't really do that. That's not going to work as well. So let's put this UFO thing and cause.
Interesting. So your point of view is the UFO thing could be a means to bolster up the military industrial complex.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
That is a good theory, actually. I've never thought of it like that. But I've just been listening to so many, like the Jeremy, Bob Lazar, that guy.
No, I'm
So
not
he
saying
came
they're
out-
not real. I'm saying that they could use those real things
No, for sure.
as a way to,
to increase their budget.
increase the
Totally.
budget, yeah.
But okay, so that's like a human game we're playing.
Mhm.
But Bob Lazar, the guy who made Jeremy Corbell, the guy who made the Bob Lazar documentary. I don't know if you saw it on Netflix.
No, I didn't watch.
Oh, it's really good. Only because they're not talking about aliens so much. They're talking about like him as a person, and they're trying to like build his credibility. Anyways, it's a different topic. But he came out with a podcast, and they're just talking about all the evidence. And I've been like binging it. I'm like, oh, dude, this is so undeniable. You have people within the military giving their testimony on this podcast.
Mhm.
And then Eric Weinstein, I just started listening to it, is like a physicist. And the only reason why he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, like they're friends and they do like a lot of podcasts, but Joe wanted to have him on for this specific episode because they were like up late at night talking about the reality of UFOs and like what this can mean from a physicist perspective. So Joe's like, we need to capture this.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, if all these people are taking it seriously, there's something going on here, but we're not like paying attention.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's one thing that you can't go back on. Like sure, back in the day there was the Vietnam War, but we're talking about aliens, bro. Like this opens the door to so much more.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like we're like right at the edge of something that we can't turn back on. Like AI too.
Right.
It's
right.
like
right.
kind of weird. Remember
Yeah.
that person? Did
Yeah,
you read
yeah.
that thing where I was like, most of their job was done through AI? And I texted you
Oh,
guys
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what? Like, what? Give AI the job then, bro. Like,
yeah.
but everyone's using it. So like, what does this mean? You know, this is what's scaring me because I'm like, I don't like it's making you less competent.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm not saying like history necessarily repeats itself, but there are a lot of new things that are happening. So we still don't know what would happen in the future. We don't know
For sure.
what
Yeah,
all
totally.
these things mean and what are the ramifications of all these things. Yeah.
But to go back to the beginning where you're like in the beginning it was like this, and then through time we just lost the message. And now it
Yeah,
shifted, right? Unintended consequences. Like,
Yeah.
were they trying to rule people, or is just the best way they could structure it? And then we had all these unintended consequences. And I feel like with AI, there's a lot of unintended consequences that could go on. But I'm the only one, like you too, like
Yeah.
the only people that are really paying attention to it are the only ones that are kind of worried. like on a
No, it's
day-to-day
been
superficial level.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like on a
Yeah.
superficial level, everyone's like, well, "Why are you afraid of AI?" And I'm like,
But this is
"No, no."
how it
Like
happens,
on a
though.
psychological, you're right.
This
That's
is
what I
how it
mean. It's like
happens.
that's what an unintended consequence
Yeah,
is. Like you,
yeah.
just like putting people in castes. It's like, no, we're just trying to organize things. It's like, no, no. But if you think about it, that could lead to a lot of problems.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
But it's hard to you see, yeah, you'll have two spans of people where it's like you could some maybe see a problem in that, but like we don't. Some may see like no, it could cause other good things. So like depends on how you're looking at it, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
way are you being more hopeful or are you being more pessimistic? It's like these are the people that are leading, pushing the world.
For sure. But I think it's important to like sleep with one eye open. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
we could be hopeful, but like let's also look at like
But it's very difficult, especially with technology, because regulations always come in later,
right. And then it's like,
much more
oh,
slower. Yeah.
like even as simple as okay, so like the person who's using ChatGPT all the time for their like work, right? It's like if you do that, that's just gonna make you sloppier. So
Hmm.
you're not actually making a skill better, right?
But
Because they
also,
asked me to do something.
yeah, 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 okay, okay. No, no. But also, it's like okay, like we grew up. Well, I did at least, like memorizing the times table. Do I know that now? No, because I use a calculator. This is what's going to be happening. Where it's like
Oh,
people are
you're saying.
using ChatGPT, they're not actually learning anything. They're letting something else do something for them. You're, I don't know of how we can progress. All you're doing is progressing AI. You're not, as an
Yeah.
individual, isn't learning and growing. You're
Yeah,
relying on
fair.
something else.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I can see your point on that because like Canva is a new program that has become super popular and you basically don't need like Adobe anymore. Like I
Hmm.
haven't touched Adobe in like a long time.
Right, right.
Well, I mean for myself, but like work purposes, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
faster to use Canva.
I
So
saw
like I
like
get what you're saying.
I saw like an ad, or not an ad. I don't know. It's like something that Microsoft is working on, and if this is gonna happen, it's like it's kind of like ChatGPT, where for Canva, where you just
Oh
tell it
wow.
what to do and it'll do it. It'll make the design.
Oh, that's wild. Okay, so the efficiency is there,
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like
but I don't know, it's like the dependence. There's just so maybe that's the thing. Maybe we just keep going forward as fast as we can and then we just pick up the pieces later on.
yeah, it's
Maybe
generally how
that's
we
like
all. That's just how we always been, right? We do all these things. We don't know the ramifications, then we'll have to deal with it at the time.
so then how can you like toe the line on any idea? You know what I mean? Like if if we're always continuously evolving, how can you stick to one belief system?
Hmm. No, people do change. Yeah, I think
But
that's
I don't know if they do. I
okay. I
don't
understand what you're
know.
saying. Yeah, but most people don't, right? So I think that's the one
Like
thing that's kind
liberal
of
agenda.
yeah, yeah.
For the whole rest of my life, I'm going to be a liberal agenda person. I'm going to be a right wing person for the rest of my life. You know,
Hmm.
I'm super conservative, but you need the capacity to flip both sides there. Like it's like I agree with this, I don't agree with this, but like we become so entrenched in one side over the other. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there is. I think it depends on how much is being changed. So I think a lot of people that were, let's say, let's just say Democrat or something, right? Maybe the
Okay.
Democrat, in their view, has gone too left, and
Okay.
those are those people that will be now leaning towards. I'm looking for the middle person. Maybe the middle
But
person is.
maybe they don't exist. Maybe they do exist, but they're very few in their voice.
No, a few in the voice, but they
Yeah.
are. I think there are the many though. The middle is the many. It's the,
But the
but they're the
system
few that
can't
are
change.
talking.
But the system can't change. You have parties.
Hmm.
So it's like even if you are a centrist, where do you vote?
Exactly. That's the problem. Is we don't have specific uh, leaders speaking in a certain way, right? So like even like I think they were talking on the radio with like for Ontario for a long time, for like 14 years or something. It's always been a liberal party for Ontario.
Okay. Okay.
And something happened where they weren't speaking to the general public and it became, now it's all like it's conservative vote, which has not happened in a long time, right? Like 40.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was Liberal Party, like 20. I don't know how many years.
Hold on, wait, but 20 years. So
let's just say it's 20 years. I don't remember the exact time, but it was a long time. Yeah.
But that wasn't a person that changed. That was just time that killed off those people.
No, what do you
You
mean?
see what I'm saying? Like you're like, oh, now it's in a conservative way, right? But we have to think about the population that became old enough to vote. So maybe those kids, like I'm saying the individual, I don't know if they can change, but society can change because people like change your education patterns. Like you learn from your parents, and then you're like,
I don't understand what
want
you're
to vote
saying
that way.
because
Because 20 years, 20
yeah.
years
Yeah.
allowed for 20 years of more voters.
Okay.
Because each year another one becomes 18, and then you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I understand what you're saying.
So what I'm saying is, the individual who 20 years ago voted liberal, they may still keep voting liberal, but there's 20 additional 18-year-olds that are voting in the opposite direction. So it's like society can change because the population changes. But I don't know if people can change their viewpoints.
Yeah, we've had this talk before.
But that's what I mean about centrist, right? It's like you're still going to stay left, but yeah, maybe society will evolve into a centrist point of view, but that's because the generation that kept voting became a centrist generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think the party became too left.
Yeah, but the person didn't change their point of view. They weren't like, "Oh, this is too left."
No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I can agree with that. Yeah,
and that's what kind of freaks me out because it's like, well, I mean, freaks me out on a different level because people can't change, and then you're like, what do?
I think as a mass, no, yeah, it's very hard for someone to, yeah, I think it's hard for people to change. Once they're like, I think that's why the only thing that can change is, I think it's what Steve Jobs said, right? Death is the only thing that is going to bring about the difference.
Yeah. Okay, did you see the thing that I sent with the Greta Thunberg? She deleted her post. It was just going on. All right, so she deleted her post of 5 years ago where she's like, if we don't stop climate change now, in 5 years the world will end. So she deleted that post because it's like, it's been 5 years, so.
Oh, she said that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And was it in a meme format or like actually she deleted it? Like,
no, it was a tweet by her, and then somebody found the old tweet and then saw that she deleted the old tweet to like, because it's been beyond the timeline.
Right.
So you're obviously wrong.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you change something like that? You know, I mean,
change
you see the weather.
Like that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, their ideology is so entrenched in who they are, and then when you become like a public persona, like, what if tomorrow she's like, you know what? I don't actually believe in this climate change thing. Yeah. Boom, your whole like we become like I feel like being able to flip on both sides makes people uneasy about you or something. Like we want to put everyone in a box.
That's why that's what they want to do, but it's very difficult when I think everyone is individual. Like it's what do you call that? It's like it depends on the specific thing you're talking about. So maybe climate someone is left on, but like something about taxes they may be right on, like right side viewpoint. I think like people are mixed. It's like if you ask them individually which thing, it'll be all over the place.
But if you were to ask her now about the climate change tweet, what would she say? Would she admit like, oh, I was wrong? But then what does that mean? It's like, then maybe you're wrong about everything else. You know what I'm saying? We can't drop the facade.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to be able to change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like maybe she's getting funding. Maybe she just wrote a book. If she says, "Oh, I was wrong," nobody's gonna buy the book. You know, like
yeah. But I think a lot of the like personas, it's all it's not a real persona that's online. A lot of these things are not. Yeah.
it's we become trapped by that identity that everyone identifies us with.
Hmm.
But you as an individual, like what must that feel like? That must be so constricting to not
I think
air a
so. I
real
think I
point of
think
view.
you're. I think it's yeah. If you're stuck to what the view of the world thinks of you, you're supposed to
Yeah.
be like. That's so constricting, right? You're not free to be who you really
Yeah.
want to be. Maybe you're changing your ideas, but
Yeah,
you can't
which I
express those things. Yeah.
right, and which I find so wild because it's like the internet doesn't play, bro. Like they will
No. Yeah.
look at the
Yeah.
history and they'll be
But
like, "Oh,
people.
remember he said
Right.
this?"
Right. But people do change, or like they apologize. Maybe they didn't mean it like that, or they've learned something. Like even with Kevin Hart thing, Kevin Hart
That's
apologized
what I was
for
thinking
that
about. Yeah,
tweet, right? So it's like, but why? Like, I think like forgiveness has gone away for the
yeah,
internet.
yeah, 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 yeah. And it's see, these are more unintended consequences. Like we as a society don't have the ability to manage our own mind.
Hmm.
So you're giving us all these tools to like to play with, but we haven't fundamentally figured ourselves out.
Hmm.
So like if you figured yourself out, you'd be like, yeah, you know what? She changed her mind. You know, we have access to internet, but then the person who refuses to like who hasn't like why are you gonna attack somebody about something that happened in the past, but or why can't you own up to something that happened in the past when you yourself know that you change?
Hmm.
But that takes a higher perspective to understand that people change
Right.
of their points of view, because I'm saying people don't change. It's man. It's a weird paradoxical argument because like I don't think people change their value system, but you can maybe I'm undoing my own argument in my own head. Can people change?
I think
Like
it depends on the individual how they.
just because there's two levels. Wait,
Yeah.
actually now I'm thinking about it more. Because like I think people don't change. Oof. Maybe we have the capacity to change, but not everyone enacts that capacity.
I think you're right. I think everybody has the capacity to change, but it depends on how rooted are your foundations on certain ideas,
Yes.
right?
And
If
and
you're
then there are
not,
obstacles.
yeah, if you're like this is something you truly believe, you've planted your foot on it. I think that's going to be hard for someone to change that idea. But if something is like
Right.
wavering, I think those are the ideas you can change.
Right. And once you've like given yourself the obstacle of this is my identity, like let's just go back to the Greta Thunberg thing. It's like you can't change. You're more unlikely to change because there's more obstacles in the way of you changing. It's like,
Hmm.
what would this mean for me economically? What does it mean for me as a person? What does um like what does it mean for my relationship? What I'm trying to say here is that if people knew that they were an empty canvas, then they'd be more open to change. But people, I don't think, are at that state where they understand that they are essentially empty until they fill the void of who they are.
Hmm.
Let me explain that because that must have came out weird. If I ask you who you are, right, you're like, oh, I'm a son, I'm a worker, I'm a husband, I'm a. You
Yeah,
have so
yeah.
many like I ams, but all of those are from a state of remembrance. Like
Hmm.
you have to dig back into your memory, who am I? And then you like fill in the sentence, right? But if you understood that pause before you actually say who you are, that's the real you. It's like a blank canvas. You could actually just rewrite that story. It's like, um, I am not afraid of the dark. I
Right.
am not afraid of this, right? But when you look back and you're like, oh, I'm afraid of this, and then that narrative takes over. Like
Hmm.
we're like
Hmm.
an ever growing narrative. Like what people are is like an ever growing adapting narrative.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Right?
Hmm.
And unless you understand that, I don't think you can change. But I think that's why I said I don't think people change because most people don't even know that,
Hmm.
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and that's a much more higher level. But yeah,
That's
that's
why
a
when I said that, and I was thinking
yogic or
about
like
because yeah, because as I was saying it, I was like, okay, wait, people who listen to this, like, you'll understand what I'm saying, but then people who listen to this are like, wait, but you just said that people can't change. It's like, no, they can, but it's like you need to know this one piece, this
I think
one
what you're
key.
saying is you should not be attached to these things, right? These.
Yeah, because they come and go,
Mhm.
right? But people who don't understand the levels of your like personality or your comprehension or your identity, then they're stuck.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, who should I vote for? Think about the past. Okay, I voted liberal. I'm going to keep voting liberal.
Mhm.
But the real question should be, who should I vote for? Or what are they both saying?
Right.
You see what I mean? Like, there's a difference there. It's like one is looking at the world objectively, and one is looking at the world emotionally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like most of the world's run off of emotion, not logic.
Yeah, we're human beings.
Right? And it's like, but shouldn't we run more off of logic if we really want
Yeah,
the
isn't that something that like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like if it was a scientist who was the president, like
It's right, exactly. We'd have a way better. It's like, no, this doesn't make sense over here. Let's actually do this. Like
right, right.
it would be a solution. It wouldn't be this like yelling match
Yeah.
of like, do you see the Jagmeet Singh thing where he's wearing the yellow and then the person wrote like, oh, you
Oh
wore
yeah,
your
yeah, I
yellow.
saw that. Yeah.
It's like that's an emotional response. Like that was so dumb, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that just shows you how ridiculous this game is. We're playing on the level of emotion.
Mhm.
Whereas emotion is like so easily swayed by anything.
Right. Yeah.
Like, but that's what even triggers. You know, people are like,
Yeah,
I
trigger
was
is
talking,
yeah.
is an emotion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
but
of
if you
course.
just like learn to manage your emotion, maybe you wouldn't be triggered. You know,
But I don't think
and
it's that. I think it's allowing because I see a lot of people just say like, yeah, I'm triggered. Like they accept that it's emotional.
right, and it's like that's kind of you're doing yourself a disservice because you're like, instead of leveling up past this, you're just like stuck in that level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
That's true, but I feel like that they want to stay at that level though. Also,
for sure, because it's easier
yeah.
than doing the work to advance past the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, and this is where most of society is right now at this current moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was listening to, we were talking about songs, me and this other person, and I was like, oh, this one song brings up emotions of like procrastination for me. Like, I used to listen to this one song by Brand New, Failure by Design, and basically it talks about like leaving something to the last minute. And I would always play that song when I was doing assignments like late at night because I was like, oh no, it's due tomorrow morning, so I have to write this. And then the person asked like, oh, were you triggered by the song? And I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was like, yeah, let's cancel the song, never gonna listen to the song again. And I was like, no, no, I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
like
yeah,
if
yeah.
I was somebody who ran away from triggers, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna listen to that song ever again. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's actually what the person asked. Like, did it trigger you and you turned it off? I was like, no, I listened to it, just remembered those feelings, and I was like, okay, let's like turn this into fuel to like
Yeah.
do some work,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we're not willing to move past the hardship.
Yeah, I think that's.
But are there levels to this thing? Like, let's say, all right, bad example. Let's say you got raped, and then now everything rape related triggers you. So that's a lot of hardship to get over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe there's levels to this thing where it's like you should save triggered for that like serious like moment. But if you're like, I got triggered because it reminded me of like, bad like late night homework days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, bro. It's very, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think there probably is levels to that kind of thing. But then I think there's much more a human connection to someone who has gone through it, and like when you learn about it later, that they had this experience with them, like, you feel like that you feel more connection to, or like connected to that person or understanding of that person, and like there's I guess a view of reverence kind of thing too. It's like they've gone through so much and they've like succeeded in something.
So that wait. So is that like the positive side of
As a
saying you're
positive
triggered?
side, yeah, I think not
Saying
triggered.
you're triggered.
I'm saying like people that do overcome these things. I
No,
think
no,
that's
that's what we should all do. Is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah, that's
But
what I'm
you're like, oh,
saying.
but I've accepted being triggered. It's like what? But then you're just like
Because
living in
I
the
think what's
problem.
happening now is more that for that kind of thing, accepting being triggered is they want to see the change. Like I'm not accepting uh, uh, like I'm not going to stop being triggered till something's been like changed or
But
whatever the aspect it may be.
totally, my question to them becomes like, what are you doing to make the change?
Yeah,
Or are you just waiting for somebody to
exactly. So
fix
there
the
should
problem
be
for you?
exactly. So if that's the case, if you're just waiting for someone, then that's the wrong solution.
Yeah.
You should be doing things in those fields to cause the change. Yeah, like what are you
Yeah.
doing to affect those
Right.
changes? Yeah.
It seems like I all right, you know when you're a kid and then you something goes wrong and you're like, Mom, Dad, fix this.
Hmm.
It feels like that. It feels like we haven't progressed to like being like, oh, okay, I'll probably just fix this myself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We're like so coddled as a society now that it's like we want
Hmm.
things, but we're not willing to work for them. And then the people, so it's oh man, so this is what I mean. So many problems right now. So it's like we're coddled as a society. So those are the people that are like complaining for something, but they don't want to work for it. And then there are the like the staunch believers in things that like will toe the line, loudly, like devoid of facts. Like it's like I don't want to look at I don't want to look at the true argument here.
Yeah.
I just want to yell,
Hmm.
you know? And then they feel like they're making the change. So it's like you have all sides of pure confusion. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what
It,
you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I feel like it also could be because Western society is relatively young. So if you look at, where did Stoicism come from? It's the Romans. Where did Socrates' philosophy come from? It's the Greeks. Where did yoga come from? It's the Hindus, right? It's like you have thousands and thousands of years of like getting it right and wrong till like these spiritual leaders kind of fix things.
Hmm.
But right now, I feel like the West hasn't had enough time for the spiritual leader to arise and be like, we need to come up with a universal philosophy to fix your broken minds.
Right.
But like what the ones I mentioned, like yoga, stoicism, like Socrates' like philosophy, these are all like mental management tools.
Hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like we haven't developed our own mental management tools, and that's why society's going awry right now. Like I see a lot of people just running off emotion,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Whereas like back then, it was more about like the philosophy balanced out the emotion.
I see what you're saying, but I don't know if it's necessarily everyone was like that, right? Seems like we also very much I don't know I forgot the word, but it's like romanticize history, where it's like
There, no, totally.
well, I'm not
But
saying like
I
I'm
can
saying like there
improve it.
are answers, right? There are people who have done things to change or whatever the aspect, like to be able to evolve in a way. But I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
necessarily everyone was like that, right?
No,
These are
for sure, but it's ingrained in a culture. Like you knew culturally these answers. Like, because Hinduism's just a part of your culture.
yeah, but I don't think everyone is like that though,
Oh, okay, explain. What do you
because
mean?
people are still even today's time they can be triggered. It depends on the individual too. I think it
No, but
depends.
I mean, like name one immigrant person that said they were triggered.
Immigrant person here
Yeah.
as a
Because
as
those people, an immigrant came from like they were most indoctrinated in their culture, in their homeland, and then they came here.
mhm.
So they're an immigrant. But like I can't say first generation or second generation because those
Yeah.
kids in this society. What I mean is like when you live in a place that's been around for so many years, like you've worked through a lot of these problems. And I feel like we're going through some weird growing pains right now, psychologically
Sure.
as a
Okay.
society.
Yeah. I think it'll
But
be a
like
little bit more different from an immigrant person because they're trying to survive in this planet. Like when they come to this country, their only thinking is how do I protect my family, make money so that they can,
For sure.
right?
For
So
sure.
you're in a different ballpark.
Okay, wait. Hey, name someone in, like, do you have any cousins in India or aunts and uncles that say that they've been triggered by something? Like, I think the biggest trigger would be seeing a British person on Indian soil. Like,
Right.
that would be probably the most biggest triggering thing.
Uh-huh.
But like, have you heard anyone say like, "Oh, it's pretty triggering that they're still here"? Like, in those, do you see decolonization in those? Okay, do you see this actually
Well, what
very?
do you mean trigger? Like seeing a British person and then just
Wait,
trigger?
all right, because triggering and decolonization and all this like weird
Yeah, it's a bit.
uprising
Yeah, yeah,
now,
yeah.
they're all kind of like lumped together in
Okay.
like this like woke agenda, right? But if you go to India, let's say, are you seeing any decolonization of the like past British rule? Like, are they changing the names, tearing down statues?
They have. You mean like changing names of cities,
Like, you know
or
how we changed Ryerson?
okay?
You're like, oh, we'll change the street name too because we want to
Well, like
decolonize
I
it.
can think of like Bombay was a British term or
Okay,
name, which was changed to
okay,
Mumbai, right?
okay.
So is that something? Would that be counted as something?
Yeah, sure. Okay, they voted for it, um, and they changed it. But what? Okay, the fundamental argument here is that India had a place already, and then it was colonized.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Western society is the epitome of colonization. We literally came here to colonize the lands.
Right.
So how can you decolonize
Mm-hmm.
a society that's fully colonized?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, if anything, if you want to really decolonize things, decolonize other parts of the world then.
Mm-hmm.
But like, sure, all right, we change it from Bombay to like a Bombay to
Mumbai.
uh, Mumbai, yeah. But what are the other examples? Like, okay, sure, that was like one thing.
No, that's just the top of my head. I don't know any of any other things
But do
off
you
the
see
top of
like
my head.
crazy protests of like shit? Like, did they kick out tea? Were they like, yo, no more tea, bro? That was a colonial thing.
No. Tea is very much part of the culture now.
Exactly. But that's like straight up colonization. So like, what I mean is like, why is the colonized part of the world getting upset at colonization? But it's like this was literally created so that colonization could occur. Like Western society,
Mm-hmm.
like who came here? Like it was just the indigenous here, and
Right,
then
right.
but not then they
Or maybe it's
slaughtered
more
them.
like this, yeah, as you said, because if you were colonized, you already struggled through that, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah.
Right,
So it's
right.
like
I
it
see what
kind of
you're
seems
saying. Yeah.
it
Now,
seems dumb to
it's
me.
like
It's like
someone's got to colonize Canada
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
to cause.
So how can you decolonize the
Yeah, yeah.
main colonization point? Like
Mm-hmm,
this is
mm-hmm.
we
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
all came here to colonize this.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes sense for like India to get an uproar and then like you see all these protests like I don't want to be colonized because we were originally Indians. It's like, oh, true. But why is Canada caring about decolonization? Canada in its entirety is a colonized structure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like to decolonize it would just break the system.
Right.
It's like
But
literally
that's the
everything.
thing that people don't understand, or at least people that are here, if you haven't traveled. Like, why are people coming to Canada or coming to the United States? There's a reason for that too, right?
And this is what I mean about emotion. We're running off emotion, not logic.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
this is a logical argument. It's like, wait, if you just look at history, like Canada is literally Canada, US are literally the epitome of
mm-hmm.
colonization.
Yeah, yeah,
People came here to create a colonial system,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? So how can you decolonize a system that was built from the ground up as a colonization
Right, 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 right.
like monument?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The argument doesn't make sense. So why are you so angry?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's
yeah.
logic. I'm using logic here. I'm not using emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But most of society is running off of emotion right now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's like also which colonizer are you talking about here? Because the Portuguese were just as colonizing as the British, but they just didn't win out because the British had a bigger army.
Yeah.
So which one are we talking about here? Japanese colonized the Philippines. Like we're all colonizers, bro. So what do you
Right, right, right.
makes no sense. I don't
yeah,
know. It makes no sense to me.
it's an ebb and flow. We're going through the growing pains. I don't know what's going to come out at the other end.
But that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
It's just growing pains, and I'm just watching people on a daily basis be confused by what's going on. Like, why are you yelling? Like, I just don't understand the point
Mm-hmm.
of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you use
You know
logic,
what?
which
It's
should,
the. I just think of this too. It's like the ones that are like we're watching TikTok or in IG or whatever, right? A lot of people that are using this are very much the younger generation.
yeah, okay, yeah. But that's go back to it, the unintended consequence of technology. We didn't think that far.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Saying
what would have happened? Let's just say if the boomers grew up in the age of internet
technology.
and social media, how exactly how skewed is the internet right now? Is it too left? You know what I mean? Like all these
Oh,
because
true.
they're the ones who are the major users.
Yeah, true. Like tech companies are all left.
Yeah, right. But like if boomers grew up with technology, how would the internet actually be spread out? Would it be
It'd
an
be more
actual
conservative. That'd be
would it be
hilarious.
more conservative? Would it be 50-50? Would it be like actually, where cuz right now it's too left because of course there's more
Oh
younger
my God,
generation
that's
using it.
so trippy. Imagine doing like a long longitudinal study over the internet's themes, and then like 50 years down the line, like you can actually see if you did a longitudinal study, you could actually see the ebb and flow of which way people were leaning
Yeah.
based on
Right,
algorithms.
right. Yeah, think about it too. Like 60s happened.
That's
That was very
wild.
left period, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But then
yeah,
now those 60s people are more the boomers, right? So it's
yeah,
like their views are more right than left at this point.
yeah,
So it's like, how would the internet actually be? Because they're not the ones who are using social media. It's like us, our generation and below,
yeah. That's
right?
true.
Very few older generation people are actually using social media.
Oh my God. Did we wait? You know when when you're a kid and then the adults are like, "Oh, this younger generation, they don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're so dumb." And then now we're the adults and being like, "Oh, this younger generation's so dumb." You know, it's like it always
It's the same
happens.
thing. Yeah. But now
But
they have a much more bigger voice because of the internet, social
yeah,
media, and what you're viewing, right? It seems like, oh, everybody's talking about the same thing when you scroll through, but is that just your algorithm, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like,
and who's creating content? You're not
yeah,
going to see like a boomer creating content
no,
for it.
no.
Yeah,
If they are, there's very, very few.
yeah.
Not at all the amount of boomers that exist.
So you just get like a lot of left-leaning content because
Exactly.
that's what the
That's
kids are
what's
programmed today.
exactly.
Okay, I drank too much Monster. We're gonna pause here and I'll jump right back into this. Wait, one second.
Okay.
All right, and we're back. So I was thinking about this. Uh, do can no can a society be run off of logic over emotion? Is that even possible? Because if we run the logical process far enough, would we just undo our entire society? Because there's a lot of things wrong, right? So it's um, like climate change because of pollution, cutting down trees, I don't know, cancers in the air. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that you can't logically. Maybe you can't run it off logic because to run it off logic, it's almost like you need to start over. We need to learn from
Yeah.
the errors of the past.
Hmm.
You know, because how could you undo all the problems without undoing society? You know?
Yeah, I don't think you can do that overnight. Also, right? Like, you can undo only like one thing at a time, kind of stuff. Feel like even if you're logical, it's like if we would have to start from scratch. That would be the
Yeah.
understanding, but you can't do that. It just won't happen,
Yeah. So
right?
maybe you can't run a society off of logic, and that's what they know.
I think it depends if you're yeah.
'Cause,
It,
all right, even democracy is an emotional thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
logical. So if that's the case, it's like we all want freedom, right? No,
Oh,
okay. No. We all want freedom, so we all want the chance to vote. But if you have people that haven't managed their own minds, and you're just gonna have like silly people voting for silly things.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can't. Maybe to run a society off logic is a privileged state, or like a utopia that we can't achieve.
Sure. Or like, yeah,
Because
maybe we just need to let AI take over.
maybe I was thinking about like the way. So I was thinking about how much information is out there and how we're constantly at the whim of information, not just information but like entertainment. Let's say maybe, all right, not information, like media is out there. So like, because media can take the form of information, news can take the form of like articles you read, social media posts, like all media, right?
Yeah.
There's just so much media out in the world right now that we can't. It's almost like that's how they're ruling us now.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of paying attention to this, hey, we just dropped this new series. You're like, oh, cool.
Right.
It's like, it's so much overload of media that you can rule an entire society based off of like, they call it information paralysis. So like, if you're creating a website, you don't want to give too much information because then you'll paralyze the user. They won't know where to go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, do I click here first? Do I click here? So you have to kind of guide the user through the user experience of the website. Like, okay, this is about, this is the whatever, And if you take that simple model, it's kind of like what we're going through now in society. Like, there's just so much always coming out. What's the latest social media post? What's the new thing to worry about? What's the new thing to watch? That we've almost become crippled on the important matters.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is not something in human history we're used to. Like, to have access to information at our fingertips, right? This is not the way it was.
Unintended consequence.
Yeah, it's like you couldn't even read a newspaper before. You had to have someone come into town to read it. And how often does that happen? Not
right,
often.
And then the newspaper itself would be limited, so it's like only giving you the most important information.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can also get like the information skewed. Like if the writer just writes this and then they read it, or even if it's not skewed, like you can't read it, so I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
So it's really up to the interpreter.
Yeah, and how they're exactly. Yeah.
Right, but we've all become our own guide for information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm like rereading 1984, and basically it's like how do you indoctrinate people into an idea that you want to give them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And basically it's just like, if you manage somebody's mind, you control everything about the society.
Yeah.
They can make you believe up is down. We all just have to,
Yeah.
And
like they even did that like a simple experiment too. It's like where if you see a group of people just they're looking at a tree. There's nothing on the tree. Right? It's like the other guy like walking by, he also looked at the tree. Like it's like what's that?
They've run that study many times, but they've done it on like buildings too.
Right.
I remember that social psych. They were like, that's the example I remember, but like they've done so many other ones. But yeah, it's like as human beings, we just look to other people to like where we should look. It's like that's like the fight or flight response. Like we don't want to get hurt by something, so that's why we have to look.
It's all in a method of being just self-preservation.
Yeah. Maybe. So I heard this before. We're in the age of attention economy. It's like, how long can you keep someone's attention for? That's really what we're fighting about. It's not about money anymore. It's about attention, right? But maybe that's what it's been throughout time. It's like, if I control your perception, I control you.
Yeah.
Like the media companies have the most power, but we never think about it like that. We just
Hmm.
see like CNN. Oh, it's just CNN, or like, oh, it's just Fox News. Oh, it's just like the Huffington Post.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it's like they really have a lot of power to
yeah.
like shape our perspective
Hmm.
because we're trusting them to like give us the information.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like just too much.
I think I learned that a long time ago. I don't know how, but it was like I found news boring at first, and then eventually, when I was starting to watch it again, I was like, "Oh, they do it in a way that is entertaining, like to
Yeah,
keep
right.
your
Yeah,
attention."
totally.
And I was like, when I figured that out, I was like, "Oh, okay." So they're just, of course, they're picking specific stories to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally, totally. To sell ads.
Yeah.
Uh, after the commercial break. You know? Honestly, it's like, are all these unintended consequences leading us to hitting an iceberg?
But what happens when we hit the iceberg, though?
I don't know. Like anarchy, the end of society. I don't think it'll be that bad. It's almost like the end of the world won't be a bang; it'll be a whimper. You know, it's not going to be like some nuke that goes off. It's going
Right.
to be like we just undo ourselves
Mm-hmm.
through like these simple things of like caring about somebody's freaking sexual orientation is just like I really don't care. Like, do you, bro? You know, it's like, why are we caring about this? Like, the price of this food is far more important
Mm-hmm.
than that.
Right, right, right.
You know, but it's the attention economy. If I just who cares about recession prices, bro? The freaking
Mm-hmm.
your sexual orientation matters. Your identification matters. Doesn't matter that the cheeseburger now costs $40.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we're just diverting attention away from like the more important things
Mm-hmm.
because we can do that now. We just like yell a little louder and then adjust the algorithm. He's like, how come nobody's talking about these gas prices? I mean, they are, but it's not like we're all revolting against them.
I think a lot of the times what also happens is just like okay, like the train derailment, that thing that happened in Ohio.
Yeah.
Um, People were
To
like,
be
"Oh,
fair,
how
I have
come?"
no idea
No,
about
no, let's
that.
just no. That's fine. That's fine. But it's like, how come nobody's talking about it, right? There were not the recent one, the one that happened before, like the black smoke and stuff, something like that.
I don't even know about that, bro.
Anyway, you see, that's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, how come the news is not talking about that? Like the thing that trended around the internet was like fish dying or um, like I'm breathing in some bad smell air or something that went viral, right? And then and the internet's like, oh, the news is trying to hide it. They didn't talk about it. But the thing is, if you like do the archive thing and you go to that day, the news did talk about it, but nobody else cared to talk about it.
Too much
Only
media.
like yeah, exactly. And then two weeks later, someone made like a viral video. Now everybody's talking about it. It's saying that the news never talked about it, but they did talk about it on the day that it happened. But nobody else messaged um, like talked about it on the internet, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's like it's like this is how we're being ruled now through like not algorithms but like attention.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah,
attention.
yeah.
Even that's logical. It's like just go back to the date, see if they talked about it. You just didn't care enough to talk about it, bro. You know, but it's like, oh, that's too much logic for me. Let me just run off emotion. They're lying to us. They didn't even cover it. You know, it's
Exactly.
like,
But
oh my god,
that's part of the that's an emotional thing too, right? It's like
yeah,
it's already you viewed mainstream media as the bad guy. That's your storyline.
right, right,
So
right, yeah, yeah. It's conspiracy now. It's
yeah.
like they're the enemy. Did you see the thing about um, Canada putting like $5 million towards disinformation?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I don't understand how this can be done. No, but like really, like,
Yeah, yeah.
for 2 points. One, so I had to Google disinformation versus misinformation. Okay,
Hmm.
the only difference between disinformation and misinformation is the intent.
Yeah.
So both utilize um, wrong information, right? But one is doing it with the intent to destabilize something. One is doing it because they thought it was true, turned out it wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So how can you differentiate at that point? How do you combat disinformation and not combat misinformation? Like
Right.
how, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a fundamental point.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
I
know they're
think I
doing it
don't know. Like,
nefariously?
yeah, I don't know how they're doing it, or is it like how they're looking for where the root of this information was coming from? Is it is it coming from another country, right? To bring some destabilization. Like, is it?
Okay. Let's say that's it. Um, so then, so are you just going to police everything from that country? Like, how can
Yeah.
you possibly, like, let's say they don't take that approach, and like I write something that's misinformation and they deem it disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I wasn't trying to destabilize you, bro. I just thought this was true.
Right.
So like the lines are going to be bleeding together now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you can't block all tweets from a specific country. It's like
No. Yeah, I think
I
our
have
internet.
VPNs too, or also like
Yeah.
I have VPN. So like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
differentiate intent in your combat against disinformation?
Yeah, I don't think you can. It's very hard to do that.
You can't, right? And
Yeah.
the thing that is the best example for this was COVID. Remember, if you said COVID, they're like, this information might be false.
Mm-hmm.
Consider before sharing. It was all over social media. But a lot of those things at the time were considered not true, and now they're considered true.
Mm-hmm.
So it's found out that getting COVID is equivalent of getting vaccinated. But
True.
they didn't believe that before. So
Mm-hmm.
like people were saying that, they're like, this is not true. So it's like truth is always moving, like scientific truth,
Yeah.
right? So how can you possibly combat intent and a moving truth?
Mm-hmm.
This is 1984.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're all you're doing is just policing my thoughts,
Right.
policing like what
Mm-hmm.
you're like. Oh, it doesn't agree with me, so I'm gonna block you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're hitting a world where you can't possibly control disinformation. And what's more is AI is getting crazy now. If you get really good at it, you can make it sound like somebody said something, but
Mm-hmm.
they didn't actually say anything,
Yeah.
right? So right now it's kind of rudimentary. You're like, oh, it sounds kind of like AI. What happens if it doesn't sound like AI?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Yeah.
Like, can you trust anything you believe?
It seems like it's very funny because I grew up learning to to not trust the internet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
seems like, but ended up becoming like, no, there's a lot of truth in the internet. We can find that information. And now we're going
Yeah.
back to that point of like, I don't know what I can trust on the internet now.
So totally. So somebody was like, "Hey, look, we ran this through AI, and
Mhm.
like basically they just adjusted some words. So, like somebody wrote something, and they're like, "Hey, AI, clean this up." So AI rewrote it, and my comment to that thing was, they used to say, "Don't trust anything you see on TV." Now it's gonna quickly become, "Don't trust anything you see online."
Yeah.
They ignored it. Like they ignored that comment. But I'm like, no. Really think about the implication there. I thought you wrote that
Yeah.
piece of copy. Turns out you didn't. So can I trust it?
Mm.
How we trust anything online?
You can't. I that's why it's like I never did. I always try to find other kind of sources, but again, we don't know if there's biased sources in that too. So it's like it's critical thinking, and if nobody, I don't know, it's like you have to know how to critically
Everything
think.
can be faked,
Yeah.
and everything can be faked online. I'm gonna cut up this specific clip right here, like what we said before, and like right now, because I think it's important to say, even though I do like a lot of online stuff, like social media, I know it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm doing like I personally don't spend a lot of time on social media. I'll scroll for a bit and like, oh, that's a cool jujitsu move. Oh, that's a cool like video of like a cat doing something, something stupid.
Yeah.
But like when I click on someone's profile and I see something, I'm like, oh, it's not real. Like I actually don't, or like somebody will comment on my
Most
stuff.
of
I'm
the
like, it's
time,
not
it's
real.
not real. Most of the time,
Totally.
is there internet personas?
Right, exactly. And that's why I'm saying you can't trust anything you see online.
Hmm.
And if you start basing your your in-person interaction with somebody who you've seen online, kind of um you're kind of setting yourself up for failure
Yeah.
because it's not going to be real. It's
Mm-hmm.
like personas, like you
Yeah.
said.
It goes with the actors, goes with anyone.
Yeah,
I just
totally.
viewed it as like it's just their job. Like I don't know who these people are
Right,
actually like. So
right, right. Like, are like, all right, sure. Maybe you have like a bunch of people commenting on your post, um, suggest like they're like, I love this, I don't like this. But like,
hmm
so what? So what? How does that change you as a person?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like Joe Rogan said it the best, where it's like you just post and ghost. Like you really, because it's not real. It's like
hmm
people take it so
yeah,
seriously.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And as a marketer, I love this because for me, it's really funny to play with these realities.
Right, right,
Like
right.
that's what marketers do. We shape realities, right?
Hmm.
But but if you know how, like, if you know the Wizard of Oz is just behind the curtain, it's like it kind of becomes a joke.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
kind of funny.
yeah.
It's funny to me, like working in this world of like.
Right. It depends on how you yeah want to use the internet or
That's
social
why I
media.
kept saying,
Yeah.
right. That's why I kept saying it's like it's the force because people were asking me before, like why did I study marketing, right? Or
Hmm.
like what is marketing? Yeah, I was meeting with these people and we were talking about like marketing, and I was saying like marketing is just a force. It's how you want to use it, like either good or bad.
You're right.
Like I can make you believe something through disinformation, like destabilize the government, or I can like empower you.
Hmm.
Like the vehicle's the same,
Yeah, yeah. Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all right. That all being said, like the AI stuff is freaking me out, man. Not just the Chat
Yeah, 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 yeah,
GPT,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like
There's a
the
whole bunch of
audio is
things.
like, wow,
Yeah.
that's wild. Do you see? I haven't listened to it yet, but uh, Calvin Harris, I think, is like the DJ. He made Eminem sing a song for him.
Oh, I think
He
I heard.
created.
I think I heard that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Listen, you heard the song?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I haven't heard it yet, but like,
It sounds
did
like
it sound
Eminem.
real?
Yeah, yeah,
What are we doing, bro? What are we
yeah.
doing? It's like you weren't even in the studio now.
Yeah.
So, so who are we? You know what I mean? Like, what is real?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're quickly hitting that point where we're actually questioning reality.
Yeah, I think this is AI. If we're that where we're at right now with AI, like another 5 years is going to be hugely different.
Yeah, they just got to make it sound more realistic, and it's like,
Hmm.
like
Oh, they'll do that for sure.
you know what's even more dumb? Actually, okay, going back to the Canada argument of like, um, how do you police disinformation?
Hmm.
Okay, we talked about you know, intent. How do you discern intent? We talked about like the changing meaning of truth, right? But one thing that like I forgot to mention is economics. You have AI, which is a multi-million billion dollar industry, and you're putting $5 million to combat this. That's nothing, bro. You know what I mean? Like you have organizations building AI softwares that can make art, that can make audio samples,
Hmm.
can give you answers.
Yeah,
So your $5 million budget to combat disinformation, it's like technology's way far beyond that. Like,
yeah, yeah.
how can you possibly combat this?
Hmm. I don't know what their plan is with 5 million. I don't know what they're
Like,
what they're
like what
planning
are
to
you
do
gonna
with
do,
that.
bro?
Yeah,
And that just makes me think like either the government's lying or it's incompetent.
yeah. Hmm.
Really though, it's like, what are you putting the $5 million towards? You said you're combating it, but what's the plan? How are you possibly going to combat AI?
Right. Yeah, we have to see their plan. Yeah.
But you had no plan. You just said, hey, we're going to invest $5 million. Or they're just incompetent. Do you just not understand how AI works? Like, does nobody on your team
No,
Google,
I
like,
think I
it's
would.
one of the two.
I think it's a way to just appease people as well. Because there was a lot of stuff that happened just recently with all the
Okay, so
whole.
the third option is manipulators. So
Yeah.
it's either, oh no, it goes to the first one. Either you're, was it lying? Did I say lying and incompetent?
I think so.
All right, so lying would equal manipulation. So it's the first
Okay,
one.
okay, sure.
Because you're right. You're right. Like, are they just appeasing
Because there's
people?
all this stuff happened about the Chinese, the influence, the Chinese Communist Party influence into
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
government. So like
Okay.
it's all happening around the same time that this information is coming out, right? Or whatever he said about the 5 million and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like
Oh, I see. I see. I see. So he has to
yeah, look
say
at
it,
like the whole story of what's happening. So if you look at it one
bro.
individual aspect, it's like okay, but what is he? Why would he bring that up? So what happened throughout that week? You have to
Okay. Okay. Logic and emotion. So emotion. People are like, yeah, good job. You're like combating AI, like not AI, disinformation,
yeah,
because
yeah.
like, yeah, the CCP, we need to stop them. Logic says that's actually really impossible. So you could see again that emotion runs the world and not logic,
Hmm.
right? Because it's like logically you cannot solve this.
Yeah, yeah.
Even your example of like, all right, just police any tweets that come out of that country, VPN.
Hmm.
Like, what do you mean, bro? I just make it look like I'm not coming from that country. Like, what are you gonna do with $5 million budget? I don't know. Like, but like really, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah.
how could you possibly do it?
Hmm. I
It's
don't.
super,
Yeah,
yeah,
to my knowledge, I don't think you can. Yeah.
yeah. It's wild. So then why even do it? So why do it for the
Hmm.
vote? Okay,
Yeah,
so you're just like manipulating people.
yeah.
And you know what's wild too? It's like people would hear this and they'd be like, "Yeah, you just don't know. The government's definitely like more sophisticated than you think." Maybe, like, maybe they have a internal team that's like so impressive. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I
some
don't think
people just,
I really don't think that the government is as powerful as people think. If you can easily change who's in power.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, logically speaking, again, I keep going back to communism. I can't see anything stronger than that. Like for not communist, well, totalitarian governments, kingdoms. Like you said it before, like you need, which is essentially communism. Like you need a
Yeah, yeah,
certain
yeah.
family to stay in power, understand what's going on. If you keep changing the person every like few years, how can you get anything done?
Well, it's a slower process, right? Democracy is a much more slower process than.
But you're also at the whims of people that are confused. Like we just said, like emotion versus logic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a much more slower progress. It's much more slower progress. But the thing is, like, if you have a bad leader, in
That's the only problem with
that's what I'm
communism.
saying, which is also inevitable, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way.
Like, no one really has, let's say, some kind of freedom to express if they're against the government. You just can't do that in China.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's definitely not like you need a benevolent leader.
But
Like
yeah, exactly, that's true. But we're also human beings that you may have one for a couple of generations, but the third generation may not be like that.
that's true. Oh, I because I'm thinking about like Naruto because I've been watching it
Hmm.
recently,
Yeah.
and that one surprisingly it's all about economics. At least the first stretch of it
Right.
is about like economics. And if you look at the way they run the villages, the strongest ninja is the leader. That's what the Hokage is, right?
Hmm.
And I'm like, but he's also benevolent, and it seems like there's peace there.
Hmm.
So going back to like the best way to lead people, kind of seems like we keep going back to like a benevolent leader that's
Right.
not voted in because the Hokage wasn't voted in. It's just the
Hmm.
most powerful ninja.
Right.
So is democracy the reason why we have emotion running everything?
Um.
Like,
Sure.
okay,
I understand what you mean.
let's take the CCP example. So they're like, okay, well, we need these semiconductors made in order to profit the entire country. So they've kind of put the country over the individual, whereas democracy is the individual over the country.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? But if you do that, then emotion is stronger than logic. But if you put the country over the individual, then logic supersedes.
Right.
Because you're looking at the greater good.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. But the individual
So-
doesn't have a power if the government is doing something against them, right?
But it's the greater good.
No, I understand. Yeah,
Right?
but that's the problem, right?
Maybe there's just too much of us.
I don't think so. I think there's too much. There's not enough of us.
Hey, human beings?
I don't think that there's an. I'm not. What I'm saying is like there's. I don't think there's an end or too high of a number kind of thing. It's just
No. But I mean to manage. There's too many of us to manage.
yeah.
Like,
I think
if there was,
it's.
like,
Oh yeah.
process-
I think in that sense, like like millions of people in a city, right? How do you manage that compared to like if you're a mayor of 1 million people or a mayor of 20,000 people? It's much more different.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Much more different things to deal with. Yeah.
It's really like, how do you herd the masses?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you protect your masses against other people's masses?
Sure.
Like countries, right? CCP versus Canada, right?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
thing. It's like, how do you protect your people?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, do you feel? I'm just like, they did say this
Mhm.
that like, if you came out of the pandemic not skeptical, like you're obviously like stupid, and like I feel like the pandemic really showed a lot of holes in the system. Like, do you feel that too?
I don't know what you mean by holes in the system.
Like how speedy information can be manipulated. Like what we thought was fake was now true. Remember, like in the beginning, it was like, oh, I'm getting vaccinated to save someone else.
Sure.
Turns out that's actually not true, and they didn't do any studies on spreading the virus with a vaccine. Like they didn't do any what do you call that? Where it's like, I can't spread it to you.
Yeah, I know.
Remember in the beginning, it was like transmission.
Yeah.
Transmission rates. Yeah. Okay, so they didn't study any transmission rates with the vaccine. They just said getting this vaccine will protect someone else. So that's not true. So is that disinformation? You know what I mean? It's like there's so much.
Depends on how you looked at the information, because it can be true.
Okay, but even saying it like that
Yeah,
is
that's
like,
what I'm saying.
Okay,
It's like
there's a hole. There's holes.
no,
like,
I'm
it's
saying
like-
like there is going to be a reduction in transmission because you're not getting COVID.
Right. No, it'd still be in you, and then you still pass it. Remember, that was the big thing. It's like that's why you still avoid people even if they're vaccinated, because you still carry the virus even though you're vaccinated.
Yeah, they were saying that too. Yeah, there was so much information that I don't know I don't know what was.
That's my point.
Where was it? It was changing at certain times. Yeah,
And that's what we saw. That
I think it was more like was it about the original the strain that was designed for, and then the newer strains were changing it up, right?
maybe.
See, that's the
But
thing. That's like
everything was coming so quick, and then people were, because I saw it in myself. I was so pro-vax. Remember, like in the beginning, I was like, "Oh, if you didn't get vax, you should die." Because like,
oh yeah.
I
thought you were too harsh in that one, right? Or was I?
I thought it was real. No, I was like super like, because I thought it was real. Like I bought the marketing,
Yeah.
and then like as time goes on, I was like, wait, I got hustled.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going on now? So it's like, these are all of the holes that we saw through COVID. It was just too quick, too much information. Our economic
I think
system-
that's that. It's like, how do you read this information that's coming, right? If you're just getting the highlights, then yeah, I can see how that could happen. But I was like watching all these press conferences and all the like what kind of questions that the journalists were asking. So like based on that kind of knowledge, I was like, so what I feel like what they were trying to do is just not have as many people in hospitals or overload the hospitals. So they were saying these things so that people don't overload the hospitals.
Okay, fair. But like, that's not what got communicated out. It got
I don't.
communicated-
So I'm like, who was communicating this out, right? It's like what was being sensationalized or what you know what I mean? It's like they may have said all these things, but it's like, is the media, were they just talking about the thing that was going to grab attention at the time?
But those are the holes. Those are the things. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
So the
if you're
government
just
were doing the like was the government doing the exact thing that they already said before, right? They mentioned that about to not overload hospitals. They mentioned all these things, but it wasn't like on the front page. Maybe it's like the fifth page.
But those are the holes. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
lack of like, oh, it showed us that we all just read headlines.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Oh yeah.
showed us
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that anybody can be a source of information.
Yeah.
Oh, it showed us that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what I mean about COVID. Really showed a lot of holes in the system because
Yeah,
now we're kind of like,
that's
what do I
yeah,
believe?
that's what I felt like when I'm seeing all these social media or internet things. Like it's like kind of like the jacket of all trades, but you don't really know anything about this topic. You're just
Yeah,
saying stuff
right.
now.
Yeah, totally. And like we saw also through COVID, like the rise and fall of Bitcoin. And now
Mhm.
it's post COVID, it's like, okay, crypto is actually not as important. So it's like, okay, there you go again. It's like we all had time.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like
We're
these
all perils. Yeah, this is the perils of social media, right? This is the problem.
right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
like and
yeah.
like if it's like even like you can't say like a paragraph. No one's gonna read a paragraph. You're looking at 3 words,
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah. Exactly. And like pre-COVID, these were all there, but COVID really exasperated, like it showed the problem to the
Yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, it's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
well, these were always issues. Like people weren't reading headlines, but it was at a slow, progressive rate
yeah.
that we were kind of like medicine drip method.
Hmm.
You know, it's like, oh, like, but now it's like hyper speed.
Yeah,
Like COVID really
yeah.
made everything
Like before, like people had to buy a newspaper, right?
right. Yeah.
Even though they had headlines, you have the article to read,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure.
right? And now
Yeah,
it's like, well, I want to go to the next thing, so it's like 3 seconds of this, 3 seconds of this. It's
totally.
like
Yeah.
that's all that's happening.
Or I've noticed too, even if you want to read the article, it's like clicking the link in my bio. It's like, oh, I got so many
Exactly,
steps.
that's too much. That's an
Uh,
inconvenience. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But this is like it depends on where you're coming from. Like, there's not many people like me who just go and click and actually read what it actually is trying to say.
Right. Yeah, totally. Like who is like people are like, who has the time? It's like, yeah, I know, but how can you trust information if you don't have the time to read the
Yeah,
information?
exactly.
It's wild. I see again, it's like, are all these things leading up to like some weird iceberg that we're about to hit?
I
Like,
think
okay, wait.
I see what you mean. I think there will be some ramifications to it. Yeah,
But
because it's like if we're following things that are not scientific or not true, there that means it's going to fail somewhere, right? It's going to have to buckle.
yeah, totally. The the thing that so the thing that I find interesting is like if you're paying attention, you can call it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean is like if you go back to our old podcasts, I think even one was called like something about economics. It was during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent like a whole episode talking about the economic ramifications post COVID.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying attention to that. Nobody cared. But so many people, like economists, were talking about it. That's I didn't make that up. Like you didn't make that up.
Yeah.
We were reading articles about it. We're like, this makes a lot of sense,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So if you're paying attention, you could see that we're headed towards an iceberg. And I wonder if this is one of those moments again where it's like, you and I are seeing something, and we're reading other stuff, we're like, wait, this is making no sense. And then we're gonna hit the iceberg.
Yeah.
Which is like the recession.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't know what the next thing is, but like something definitely is a
Yes.
problem here.
Yeah.
But like, can we reset it through a unified enemy? What I mean by that
That's
is this.
generally what happens.
Right. So it's like
like
we
if you
need to-
remember, like you mean like as a country, unify as a country?
even as a world, like why like because we have it so easy, we can
Mhm.
argue about things like gender and sexuality.
Yeah.
It's like that should be
Like
a
we don't have an
non-issue.
enemy right now. Like if you think about when 9/11 happened in the United States, it was like 90% of people were ready to go to war.
Right. And they all had one unified plan. Like there was no like I think they even said like a lot of people stopped a lot of the violence at that time. You
Yeah.
saw like a downturn because
And
they're
they
like, no,
all
we have
yeah.
Yeah,
We're
we need to.
Americans. We're together now.
Yes,
Forget
yes,
this is the thing. Yeah.
yeah. I think like that. Like you gotta learn from history. We need one of the. No, we don't need one of those, but that is a that is a way to actually unify people. It's like we're so soft now that that's why we're arguing about things that should be non-issues.
Hmm.
They really should be non-issues. Like who? Why are we still arguing about race?
Right,
Why are we
right, right.
still arguing about like gender? Why are we still arguing about like sexuality? These
Hmm.
things are non-issues.
Hmm.
If somebody is coming to invade your country, these are non-issues. Like, do you
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course.
those are things happening in Ukraine right now? You think
Yeah.
that's the hot button issue? No, survival is.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So like maybe we need to like correct course with like maybe that's what the aliens will do for us, bro.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like I mean
Maybe
like
that's
we
the
say
iceberg. Maybe that's what we need. We
maybe
need
that's the
something.
iceberg.
Yeah.
Bro. Actually, that's the biggest iceberg for me. I'm just like, I don't know what this is, but there's a lot of traction in this direction.
Right, right, right.
Like, you, I like, yeah, I don't think you were as entrenched in me in this, but like
No.
Baghdad,
Yeah, yeah.
Baghdad, like, they have been seeing these like pill-shaped metal tubes.
Hmm.
It almost looks like a pill, like a long pill,
Okay,
and
okay.
it's like metal, and it's just been flying around Baghdad for so many like years,
Hmm.
and only now are we starting to like admit that it's real. Like the U.S. government was like, yeah, we actually is a UAP, like not UFO,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unidentified phenomenon. We don't know
Hmm.
what this is. So it's like if nobody knows what that is, we need to figure out what this thing is.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
are
yeah.
we in
Yeah.
danger?
Yeah.
Maybe that is the iceberg we're going to hit. Maybe
Mhm.
like it's like we have all of this disinformation, we have all this stuff. Like people are not paying attention because it's too much media, and it's like, oh, UFOs are here. We're like, oh, damn, we didn't see this coming. It's like, yeah, because you know, because we were all
Yeah,
arguing over stupidness.
yeah.
Like, how do you feel about that? Do you think that that is?
No, that will of course unify everybody. I
But I
think
feel
that's
like that is the biggest issue we need to address right now. Like nobody cares, nobody believes in the UAP thing. But now the government, multiple governments are saying that no, these things are real. We don't know what they are,
Mhm.
and this is not in people's
No,
like.
because it's because it's just a video. Let's just say if you can physically see it, maybe there's a change in that, right? Like people, like I actually saw this thing.
But people have seen those things though.
Yeah, but
Like
there's
people
still
have
I
captured.
understand that, but those are the people that will be influenced by it. But I don't, it's not the majority,
Okay, yeah, I see your point.
right? I'm not saying like even if someone had seen it too, it's like I don't know how much they would believe what they saw as well.
Yeah,
But
they just say it's Starlink.
yeah, like that
But
did happen. They were like, it's like the Starlink thing. Like everybody was like, "Oh, what is that?" And then like there's an answer to it. I was like, "Okay."
what
Like,
about the ones that there are no answers to? That's the
but we have
wildest
to
one to me.
see it, right? We have to physically. We had to see it with our own eyes. If there's a lot of videos also on the internet with saying like, "Oh, this is not an actual UFO or whatever. This was like a camera issue or something like that." Let's just say, like if
Yeah.
those videos are also out there too, it's like this is where people then of course are going to be like, "I don't know what that is," or
Okay, what do you
like they're not going to
what do
spend time like you're spending time researching these people, watching their podcasts or listening to their podcasts or stuff. They're not doing that.
just like the recession post
Yeah,
COVID that we were both like, wait, something's gonna hit
yeah.
economically.
Hmm.
And then they're just shocked by it when it happens. Like, why are the prices rising? We're like, we talked about this already.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we knew this was gonna
Hmm.
happen. So you think that's what it is. It's like
Yeah.
but then that just goes back to like the mind control thing. It's like let's just give them more media. Don't pay attention to the prices. Don't pay attention to the UAPs.
Hmm.
Just watch the next series that's about to drop.
Yeah, that just happens, but they're not in control of that's all they can control is what's the information, like as the news kind of thing, right? But what's the news series and stuff is they're not in control of that. That's individual companies, right?
Right. But it's not a collective effort to educate people. It's a collective effort to um subdue people.
Well, yeah, it depends on what's coming out. Like they had the guy with the ancient stuff. I forgot his name. Oh, Graham Hancock.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
show on Netflix, or like the other video you mentioned that's on Netflix too. Like they're there, but it's like, do you want to watch that or not? Right? That's an individual choice now.
And maybe it's like it's just more comforting to be subdued. It's like,
In some cases, yeah,
you know,
yeah. Isn't there like some like slow like line that's like let it's like something that like let it be or something. It's like that means you're just following through. You're just flowing with whatever's happening.
like it is what it is
Yeah,
kind
like
of
it
thing.
is what. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just maybe it's just certain individuals
Mm-hmm.
that feel like more ownership over life than other people do.
And yeah, it depends on how you view life, right? If you view life, this is the one thing, right, that we know that exists, then yeah, you're gonna view life like that, right? If you're looking at, well, this is just a test. We have another place that we're going after.
Oh yeah, like Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's many religions like that, but yeah. So then this isn't. This is more of a test, right? You're following through with the guidelines of the church or whatever religion you follow. It's like at the end of it, we're going to be in heaven, right? So like that's
Yeah.
another belief too, right?
So it's
So
like
it's
who
like
cares about the aliens because like we're
mm-hmm.
gonna meet
Yeah, or
God
it's
in this.
just yeah, exactly, or it's just like God doing things. Maybe it's not aliens. I don't know if they believe that, but
Damn. Perhaps ignorance truly is bliss.
well, there's a reason why that line exists.
Yeah. Yeah, because this has been like a lot of these things like way like all right, no, all right. How do you feel about it? I'm curious to know your perspective. Like for me, it feels like a lot of the stuff's weighing me down psychologically, and I have to like. That's why like martial arts and like stuff like that just like reset the mind. It's like
Mm-hmm.
who cares about
Right,
this,
right.
you know? But like knowing a lot of information, not even useless information, like
Yeah.
really good information that like why don't you focus on your career? I'm like, yeah, but I am, and like I'm doing really well. So it's not like I'm wasting time on things that
Mm-hmm.
are, you know what I mean? But like those things also have like because I know about economics, because I know about psychology, I'm able to implement that not just in my career, but also like my full like my outlook on life,
Mm-hmm.
which is like heavy. Because you're like, wait, what does this mean about people?
Right.
Like if we're all influenced by emotion, what does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? You
Mm-hmm.
know? So like, how do you take it? Like for me, it's heavy.
Yeah, I think the way I take it is just uh, I, I I think I'm not really as attached to it. Like it's I think that
Okay.
there's a lot of interesting things about the world, right? And I think that's where I'm focusing on. Even like these UAP stuff is uh it was interesting, but I don't it's not impacting my life, right?
But like
In a
prices are
direct way. No, prices are sure, yeah.
like recession.
Yeah, but I have no control over those things too, right? And I look at it as all ebb and flow kind of thing. So it's like we go through the hardships or whatever happens economy wise. It's we're we're like as a government kind of thing. We're all in it kind of together, right? I can't. What am I going to do with the with the prices going up?
But like, then how do you make like future decisions? Like, if you're like,
Well, you're doing as much research or reading as you can, and that's all you can really rely on, right? So you go at it like that.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay, no, I see your point.
You know what I mean? Like but then there's also like I don't want it. Like if I'm
it's similar to like a religion thing for
yeah.
you. It's
Hmm.
like you're just like, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
you know. Like, but for me, I'm like, I can't just whatever it because it's what it's sort of like this. To me, it's like this. If you know you're gonna die, would you change what you're doing? Like if you knew, like in 1 week, you're gonna die,
Mm-hmm.
what would you change? Like, would you like uproot everything? Most likely, right? You're like, oh well, I've only got a week. Let me like
Well,
do
yeah,
all these
whatever
things.
money I've got left, yeah, I might as well spend it on something. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right. But to me, all this information feels like I know we're about to like do something kind of weird here.
right, right.
So that's why it weighs heavy because it's like I know that time's really more limited than we thought. Like, who knows? Maybe we'll like both live to like 90, and we're like, oh wow, I was so wrong about like the timeline there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it just feels like there's a lot of stuff we are unsure about, and it could be that end soon. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. No, I understand that. But we're also living a very privileged world, and like if you look at it from the past to today, it's like I'm much more privileged today than if I was living in 100 years ago.
For sure, totally, I totally agree. But like, what about like things like the Russia-Ukraine crisis?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if, like, are we not afraid that he might just drop a bomb? You're gonna like live with that.
Uh, yes, but I don't think I'm as afraid of that. I don't think. Well, my thinking is I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
And if
No,
it
you know what
did,
it is? Yeah,
if it did
yeah,
happen, there's something I could do about it,
yeah, fair.
right?
I maybe like going back to like brain patterns. Maybe it's because like that's why I always plan for contingencies.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this happens, I'll do this. If this happens, I'll do this. Like I'm always like decision treeing it out. So maybe that's why it weighs heavier on me
Yeah,
because like
but that's your algorithm.
that's what I
So
mean. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like, when we're talking about like people and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like the way they
I
view
think
things.
yeah, exactly. Like coming from like a Hindu perspective, it's like there's multiple gods doing different kinds of things, right? There's always these. There's so many different types of stories. So I view them as just like this is all part of the world, right? Like there's no one way. It's just this is how what's going to happen. There's different
Oh, so
things.
like, if it does blow up, like if the nuke does explode, it's like, oh well, the nuke exploded. All right, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
like what can I do about it anyways, right? And I don't, from my perspective, well, with this war, I don't think that's going to happen because if it did happen, there's going to be a lot more countries that Russia has to deal with.
But maybe it's like that.
Economically, these are not good things. War times are never good for economic times. So like China knows that, and like if you understand like how all those things work, like China relies on a lot of exports to feed their people.
So you think the only reason why
It's
he wouldn't drop one is because of the economics of it?
I think there's a huge economics to it, and there'll be like everybody's going to be going against Russia in that point. Like that's an all-out war, right? This is not even a war right now. It's just an issue between Ukraine and Russia. All we're doing is sending like military aid, right? The countries are not actually fighting for Ukraine.
For sure. But you know what freaked me out was that movie where like you recommended it, where it was like pre World War II,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing happened in that movie.
yeah,
And you're like, oh, that's the thing.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it seems like nothing's happening. Like or like you're like, oh, it's just a border dispute. It's like it seems like nothing's happening. But the main character saw like what could come next, and
yeah.
that's why he joined the army. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, we have 1 year to train,
Right.
and then World War II broke out.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the guy being like, oh, what's going on? Like,
Right.
what do we need to do?
I think that's happening too, right? But that's not in my control in that sense. I mean, specifically about the war, but yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah,
But
I
as
don't know, man.
humans as humans in general, we're really good at adapting to whatever does end up happening, right?
That's true too.
So we've survived this long on this planet. If the asteroid impact that happened a while ago, or not a while ago, but like many years
Yeah,
ago,
12,000 years.
yeah. So it's like we're still here, right?
We still bounce back from that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I look at more towards like hopeful things, like going to the moon again, occupying Mars, all that kind of stuff, which is what I look forward to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. We had that conversation when I was going through that like nihilism thing where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, it actually means nothing," and you're like, "Well, that's why you gotta play video games." You know, like, enjoy the things that are here while they're here.
Yeah. Like I saw like a video. It's like, death is inevitable, right? That's like one thing as well. But life is also, you're in life now, right?
It's
That's
true.
also a phenomenon. So it's like they're both
Yeah,
equally true. They're both equal in that sense.
yeah. So it's like, why overly fixate on death when like life is already in this moment
Yeah.
and death will come
Mm-hmm.
eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if society does implode, it's like it is what it is. Like that's we saw it and it
Yeah.
happened. There
Yeah.
you go. Like
Yeah. Maybe just to reach future generations, right, and learn from it. Who knows?
that's true. That's true. Even if we found out that aliens are inhabiting this earth, it's like that's
Mm-hmm.
just new information. Cool, aliens are inhabiting this earth.
Yeah. And we grew
Yeah,
up like loving those kinds of movies. Like I love the sci-fi stuff. Of course I
yeah. I
like
started
it.
watching Men in Black again
Yeah.
because I was like, with all this different with all this UFO stuff, I'm like, let me see what they were trying to
And there
say
were
back.
so many of those movies in our time when we were growing up. It's like they're already telling us about aliens. We were already
Yeah,
getting used to them. So it's
yeah. There was
like I
like
don't know if there would be necessarily as much of a freak out if aliens do land. Like, did the movies prepare us for this?
that's so funny that you say that because that's what Tom DeLonge, like his To the Stars Academy,
Oh yeah.
uh, like his like company,
Mm-hmm.
they're like a film company and a book company, and he said like the reason why he did it this way is because it makes it softens the blow for the truth because like
Right.
we've seen it in movies, like oh okay, I get what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Because yeah, how do you tell an entire but like what would it like how do you tell a whole world that you're not alone in the universe?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what would they even look? I guess I'm just most fascinated by this because I'm like, I have so many questions. It's
Sure.
like, where does it place us? What do they look like?
Mm-hmm.
What technology do they have?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if we found out that we're just like tiny nothings in the universe?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, the bacteria that moves stuff around your body, it doesn't know it's really just a part of a big body.
Right. Right.
So if we were like that too, it's like, what would that mean for everything you believed, everything you put?
Well, yeah, that was like the thing in Men in Black too, right? One of the end scenes. It's like we're part
Oh,
of just a bigger universe. Like
yeah, yeah,
we're all our solar system is just like atoms, just moving. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But they've been saying that for like such like Hindu scriptures have been saying that too, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
as above, so below. It's like yeah,
But it's
yeah.
just we've been doing this for a long time, right? Like as humans.
Or do you place any I mean, it would be so trippy if it turned out that the like ancient gods that we see depicted, like these giants,
Mm-hmm.
really were like big aliens. And like we used alien technology to like cut the pyramids or
Mm-hmm. Right.
like you know it'd be wild if we found like if aliens like turned out to be real and they're like they filled in the gaps in our history. They're like, actually, we built those with you guys. We use this tech. Like we could actually answer so many unanswered questions.
Right. Yeah.
Right. If we that's what fascinates me the most. It's like what can you
Yeah,
what
yeah,
can
I understand that. Yeah, that would be, but that's like also like the God thing too, right? Like God answers, like this, why did this happen? It's God was the reason, or like you know what I mean? Like we're
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of doing that with this alien thing too. But like, which part
yeah.
is it's true? Which part is
But
not true?
but the only difference being like the God stuff is totally in your head, but we're seeing footage, testimonial of like
Mm-hmm.
UAP.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Right.
So it's like there's something physical there.
Yeah. 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 I understand what
It's
you
not like
mean. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
God.
There's some. Yeah. There's some. Yeah. 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 But
Like
we don't want to. But then again, we always romanticize history too, right? So it's like we're cutting, like it's like we always do this thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, all right. I guess like how long have we been talking? I feel it's been
What's it, an hour and 50?
okay. Yeah, yeah. It's like but okay. Last thing, what do you make of the UAP thing? Like, do you think there's some validity there? Do you actually think that maybe it's like have you? Oh, better question. Have you accepted UAPs as being real, or do you still think they're fake? Not that you thought they were fake. I'm just like asking you, like, what's your perspective?
Well, I think they're a phenomenon.
Okay.
But I just don't know what they are.
So you no, but so you believe that they're real. So that you believe there are phenomenon.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But like again, it's like I agree, yeah, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I'm not saying that they're because I mean they might not even be from a different planet. They may be from this planet too. And they're just like in the water, like living there. Like we don't actually know what it is, but we can admit that.
Yeah, and we don't know like also like we don't know all the things about like space or like what things like affect Earth or like how it's happening, right? There's like, you know what I mean? It's like even like when you first learn about like the aurora borealis, the lights, the northern lights, right?
Yeah.
That looks all weird. Like, how does that even work, right? So what I mean is, like, at the time, if they didn't know what that was, they're gonna say some interesting things, right? Like, I don't know if it's from God or I don't know what it is, what the original story was. So it's like these are certain things. Yeah, these are certain things that may be happening. We don't know what they are. Are they objects? Are they some kind of something to do with the space? Some kind of debris? Like, is it reflection? I don't like. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many variety of things. Whereas, like, they're phenomenons. We don't know what they are. That's just my answer to that. Like some could be an actual, like are they actual, like even like in that thing would include like stuff like if it was drones, right? They would include that in there if they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So it's a very wide space.
But when you say like space debris, there's some that are just like, how can you explain that except for like intelligent piloting? So like the what do you call it? Like Top Gun. The Top Gun team, like the real life Top Gun team, they saw a Tic Tac and then they were like monitoring it. And they're like, okay, well, let's just go back to our rally point. So when they went back to the rally point, the Tic Tac had beat them to the rally point.
Right.
And they're like, how the hell did it know where we were going? So it's like there's some sort of intelligent design there. So like
yeah, I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, I like for those things. What are they? I don't know. I don't know what these things are. Right.
Right. But it's like it's so odd. Like, how does it beat you to the rally point? What's even weirder is there's no evident propulsion system. So it's not like blowing air or like using a rocket. It's just hovering and moving.
Right.
It's like, what is that? We have to redefine science at that point. So these are the things that are like really pushing my brain, like breaking my brain on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, wait, how could it have no propulsion system? That's weird. Like, how could it know where you're gonna go?
Right.
It's not like space debris. Like you're like, oh, it could just be space debris.
No. I'm saying like certain things that people. I'm not saying. I'm saying like it encompasses a whole bunch of things, right? I'm sure there are these things that are there too. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what these things are, but they're putting them all together. They're not differentiating it.
Right. You could explain some with the right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
So okay, yeah. Like some of it could just be easily explained. But I'm most concerned about the ones that are like not easily explained.
Right. Exactly. So we don't know what those things are too, right? So it's like we don't have an answer.
Yeah, it's true. In the podcast that I'm listening to, they haven't gotten to the alien part. But what he was saying is, like, okay, so Joe Rogan was talking to Russell Brand about it, and he said, like, I was talking to Eric Weinstein about how they might be interdimensional travelers. And I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about here? Because he is a physicist.
Mm-hmm.
So now I went to that podcast. I'm like, I need to hear what you're trying. Like, I got the headline, but now I need to know like, what is that? What were you guys discussing?
Right,
Because like
right.
international travelers, like, what does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because like they were saying that science has believed in multiple dimensions. They
Right.
already
Yeah,
believe in
yeah,
that.
yeah. They have the theory. Yeah.
So then, like, are we being visited from? It sounds so ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But is that why we can't catch them? Like they just blip out of nowhere? Like they'll like disappear, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe it's not
Right,
space, maybe
right, right.
it's through a
Yeah, they
dimension.
called them. Yeah, there's like I've seen so many sci-fi shows like that too. It's like they're like anomalies or like wormholes or some sort of some sort of thing that they. Yeah.
So maybe it's like you're not even traveling through space. Maybe you're just jumping through space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that it was in
Right.
Interstellar
Yeah. I see what you mean.
where
Yeah,
he
you're not.
folded the paper and he punched it through. He's
Yeah.
like, we're not actually running linear.
Mm-hmm.
We're jumping through a wormhole.
Right. And this
It's
is
maybe
it could be
maybe
that. Yeah, and this is just a checkpoint on their way to something, or this is the location they needed to go to.
yeah, right? And that would actually explain the blipping. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's not speed, it's like jumping.
Right.
But again, it's like movies and TV have talked about this for so long.
Yeah.
So like the theory is there. It was an Interstellar.
Yeah.
They used it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like maybe the truth is in movies, but we're using it as entertainment. It's
Well,
just like
I think
AI.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just like they had Siri in Star Trek the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
They had robots in iRobot the whole time. Like maybe these theories are things we want to achieve and we know are possible, but we just don't know how to get there yet. And then like 20 years down the line, we
Yeah.
figure it out.
Of course. Yeah.
Like that's why I'm like maybe the truth is in sci-fi movies.
No, I think yeah, a lot of the influence does happen from that, right? Like I think it's like how influenced were you? Like were those people studying
Oh,
these
it's
things?
chicken and egg.
Yeah.
It's like, did the idea come first, or were you just trying to, like, or
Yeah.
did that spark the idea?
Right.
Yeah. Were we working on this during the time of Star Trek, or did the Star Trek thing prompt you to work on
Right.
it?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's wild to think. Like my brain's just like spinning. Like, okay, but then if it's all true, what does that mean about everything?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know what? If this is what my thing is. It feels like the world we're looking at right now is like an iPhone 1. But to me, that's an iPhone 14. So I want to get to the iPhone 14. I'm like, what is going on?
Right. Yeah. Of
You know what I
course.
mean?
Yeah.
But that's why I'm like annoyed by us running off emotion and logic because it seems like I want to be at the iPhone 14, but
Yeah.
stuck at the iPhone 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Anyways.
this is an unknown future too, right? So it's like, what has the internet done to us?
Yeah, those damn unintended consequences. Yeah.
Maybe it is time for the aliens to show up.
Or maybe we finally caught up to being able to admit they're aliens.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they've always been here, but it's like the world's not ready yet.
Right.
Oh, we're ready now.
Yeah.
But it's weird too because it's like, why do other countries have like open alien files, but the U.S. is the one that?
Well, U.S. was the leader, right? So it's like other countries would have their own thing, but no one's listening. Like U.S. was the world leader.
Sure. Like, who cares that Russia has US
Like when do you think that Canada has a very good military? When do we think that?
Yeah, fair.
Like who has the most amount of bases around the world? That's America.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. Hopefully we find out soon. That's all I'm saying.
We'll see.
What these things are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe we don't in our time. I don't know. If we don't have the science to understand
That'd be
it.
so disappointing. We're like 9 years old and it's like we still don't know what aliens are. I'd be like, oh my god, what a waste. But even like time, right? It hasn't been that long since like X-Files and
Yeah.
like
Yeah. No. It hasn't. Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully we figure it out. And we like admit it soon.
Hmm.
Uh, all right, anything else? Uh, I went through.
I think that's it. I don't think I have
Oh,
much.
actually, no. You know what? I'm just gonna throw out one last thing. Um. Oh, wait. All right, two last things. I know we're like 2 hour plus into it. All right, two last things. Where are we? Do you think Last of Us? Because today's the last episode. Do you think they're gonna end it with Ellie's like ending?
Like in the game?
Because they already passed the part where I thought they were gonna end it, which is Joel being stabbed. I thought that's where they're gonna do
Yeah,
season
they
one.
passed that already. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they already passed the crazy David scene.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm like, are they just gonna rush the ending or are they gonna leave it? What do you think?
I think no. I think they're gonna finish off with where the game ended.
So today you think they're gonna do the whole like Joel kills all the doctors scene?
Yeah, like what else is there after this? Like what? I
I
don't
guess I
rem-
don't.
I don't remember anything that would be a place to stop.
Well, story wise, there was nothing else after this. But to get to the hospital, it was still a long mission. Like you still needed to play like I don't know 2 or 3 more missions. But all they were really doing was going through the city.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, but they've already done that in the show, so it's like they don't want to
Yeah.
repeat that again. I think at this point you should be at the hospital. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, your bet is we're gonna see the final episode, and then if they do have season two, they'll do a second game.
Hmm. The
Okay.
second game, they have a lot of story because the second game is very different.
Okay, so maybe second game it'll be 2 additional seasons.
Hmm.
But what do you make of the series? Like I thought it was starting to wane. I was like, that's not that good anymore.
I didn't like. I think
Yeah, I think
the
I'm so
left
glad you said
left behind. I didn't like as much that episode. Uh, the one before. Uh, they were trying to give a better, like a different story to David, like more of a who was he, like the cannibals, right? So it's like,
yeah, yeah.
and then I think at this point they're coming to the end of the story, right? Like end of the first game story. So
But do you think it's still good or
as an over, like I think overall it's good. There were I think Left Behind was the worst episode. That's all I can say right now.
I feel like it's waning. Like it started off so good.
Hmm.
Tara was like, "It's getting dumb," and I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if it's like it." Like remember the beginning? It was so sick, and like they're really
The
explaining the
intro.
virus
Yeah,
and
yeah,
make it
yeah, yeah.
realistic. But then now I feel like where we're at is like, I don't know. I'm not as sold on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Or like I'll watch it because like you've committed so far, but it's not as gripping. I feel.
Hmm.
I was wondering if you felt that too.
Uh, I'd like the one before the with David. I did like that episode.
But it wasn't. It was okay. Like even the stabbing scene of like when she was like killing him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like it was okay, but
It was
I don't know.
okay. I don't know if it's necessarily the actress too. Like I don't know if I can
Yeah,
get
I
behind the
wanted
actress
that
with as.
too. Yeah, I was thinking that too. Actually, I was like,
But
you're
again,
right.
it's like because I know a little bit. It's like they didn't play the game, so she's bringing her own perspective of Ellie. I think I like the one in the game a bit
Yeah,
more.
same. Okay, cool.
So it's like there's that aspect because when I was watching that episode, it's like she's bringing her own thing to it. This is not the way that I remember how the game was.
Yeah,
So it's
okay,
like
cool.
it's like so I don't know if I think I like the game a bit better than this one.
Totally. And the emotion was like, it's like I remember talking about like, is she a good actress? And
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't know. Like the range wasn't really there. Like I didn't feel the sadness. Like
Right.
she plays like a strong tomboy like
Hmm.
Ellie character, right? But like in terms of like the sadness, I didn't feel it. Like I didn't feel
Yeah,
like
it had like the
it was sad.
best. Yeah, the best one with her was when, uh, like for the sadness aspect of the emotional level was the scene where the brothers died.
That was a good one.
That
Yeah,
was a
that
good
was
one.
like,
Like,
shocked.
yeah.
But now when she has to like care for Joel and cry, it's like I don't know. I'm not buying it.
I don't know if
Yeah,
yeah. I see what you're saying.
glad you
Yeah.
said that too. Okay, cool. And then okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is it's interesting how when you go back and you watch these things, like I was saying this in the group chat, but I think it's like fascinating how we kind of put like if you're into anime, you put Dragon Ball Z on like a pedestal, right? You're like, oh, it's so good,
Yeah, you guys always talked about that. I never watched
right?
it, but yeah.
But watching it again, I'm like, this is not that good. It's like it's the same story over and over. It's just a
Mm.
stronger bad guy train, a stronger bad guy train, a stronger bad guy, right? But then watching like Naruto again, I'm like, oh, this is like this storyline is very deep and everyone's got intricate stories. Remember in like Bleach too, like I haven't
I
rewatched
never
Bleach.
watched Naruto. I remember like I was like searching for Naruto, but I came across Bleach and I got stuck on Bleach.
Yeah, totally. So I want to see if like Avatar. I just kind of want to see if like what we saw as kids still holds up, and if there's like
Yeah.
'cause I
Sometimes
didn't.
some of these things are like memory based only, right? Or it's
That's
like you
what I
just
mean,
remember
bro.
only the
Yeah,
best parts. Yeah.
yeah. Like the highlights. Like
Hmm.
all I think about for Dragon Ball Z is like the training scenes and the Saiyans. But then I'm
Yeah.
watching the actual story. I'm like, this story's so dumb.
But
Like
it's like
it's
I think but it's also like for the time, it's like I don't like maybe this was the one, you know what I mean? Like it instigated everything else where it's like at the time nothing was like this.
yeah, totally,
So we were
totally.
looking for something different and here this one had it.
Right. But then there are other things that do hold up. Like Naruto still holds up. I'm like shocked that it was.
Hmm.
But I didn't see it in the like I'm talking about like global economics now for Naruto. But when I was a kid, I didn't have no idea about global economics.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, oh, it's just ninjas doing ninja things. But then
Hmm.
there's like levels to it. But I
Mm.
think like watching Dragon Ball Z, it's like it's just levels too. Like there was no level past train, get
Right,
stronger,
right.
do this, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, that's why I want to watch like Avatar again and like Bleach, just see like does it hold up or was
Hmm.
it just a fond memory?
Right. Even like movies, it'll apply to
I
movies
know, yeah,
too.
it's
Like
like
all
that too. Yeah.
the
Like certain ones don't hold up. Do you remember Shrek?
yes.
Did you like Shrek?
At the time, yeah, I think I liked them. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I never liked Shrek 1 and 2.
Hmm.
They're just so like I don't know. We watched them in like high school. I thought they were kind of dumb. So like me and Tara were just watching them because like she liked it as a kid. So she's like, "Oh, memories." So we'll watch it. I was watching. I was like, "This is still dumb. Like it didn't hold up." You know. So that's what I was watching. Like I was thinking like maybe I'm older, so I'll get it now because like
Mm.
Shrek. Maybe there's like levels to it, but it's like yeah. I don't know. Art is so interesting because like it either holds up over time or it doesn't hold up.
Hmm.
And you're right. Like we place fond memories on things. Like we give them higher
Yeah,
status
exactly.
than they
Yeah.
actually really did. You
Hmm.
know, like every UFC fighter's talking about Dragon Ball Z, like Ronda Rousey and like whatever. But then you watch it again, and you're like, did you try rewatching it? It's really not that good.
I think a lot of it's because we connected with emotion, right? So if we had a good
Yeah,
time, so that's the memory that's connected with that. It may not be a good story, but like the
but
memory
it's
we had
fun
fun
to give
watching it.
nostalgia.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you go back at those things and it's like, oh, well, this is not a good movie. Did I just ruin my childhood now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can you?
True. But oh, that's actually really interesting you say that because it's like it's just like religion. Because it's like when you're a kid, you're just gonna blindly believe. But then when like you're older and you look at it with more critical eyes, you're kind of like, wait, what? It's not really adding up.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know? And it's like maybe we do just run off of like never, never going back and double checking things. You know?
Yeah, or maybe it's, it could be just like a what do you self preservation thing too. Where it's like just remember the good memories. Why I had to remember the worst ones.
Oh yeah, true. But no, but if you don't look at the bad things, it's like that's logic. You need to use like that's more of an
No,
emotion thing.
I know, but we're emotional beings, right? So it's like we're gonna do that for self preservation kind of thing too, right? It's like, do you want to be more depressed or you want to go have a better outlook?
True. I agree with you. There's a nice quote that goes like, the degree that you can change is directly proportional to the amount of truth you can accept about yourself.
Hmm.
So it's like you have to be able to go back and like look at it. Like that's true progression to be like, oh, this movie sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but like you have to be able to handle that where it's like, oh yeah, this movie was not that good, but I had a good time. Like you can have both. Those things are true.
yeah. I remember this being good. I loved it, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, you don't have to fight tooth and nail for it to like.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You should not be attached to these ideas in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. All right. Cool. Okay. So no podcast for 2 weeks, unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, I don't.
Cool.
No.
Yeah. All right. So no podcast for 2 weeks. Yeah, I'll jump back. I'm excited to talk about your stuff.
Yeah.
Very excited. But yeah. Until next time. Yeah, you want to keep that? Oh yeah, just keep it. No, I don't know. Like if I was gonna say like. I don't mind. Maybe about I'm just gonna like in 2 weeks we'll have a whole new like surprise, you know.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so until next time, take it easy, Vish.
Peace.
Bye. All right, hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.